Tiffany and I all got expelled.
Oh, I forgot.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
We're such a punk. I forgot.
I think we're
Hey, you're
live.
still in this area too, aren't you there, Missy?
Okay, everybody, we are live. Let's go ahead and get started. This is the Alumni Podcast, episode 19. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It is a very special episode tonight. We have with my co-host, Missy Cabot, otherwise known as Melissa Charlene, everybody waving. Well, you're Missy Cabot to me. But it's a very, very special episode because we've talked about this game and this season in 2 or 3 other podcasts. It's been gone over on the Facebook page, but we have live here tonight the players and the alumni who participated in what was the greatest moment in Bayshore Christian basketball history, known as the Miracle at Ramey. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'll introduce them here in a minute. Some of you are already seeing them on the screen and getting nostalgic for their faces. They all look better than us old people, so that's good for them. Disclaimer, everything we say here is not to be associated with the school. It's the unofficial alumni podcast. Couple of announcements. Chris Pate's still traveling. He's moving from Colorado to Virginia, living in a hotel right now until he gets his house in Virginia, meeting with his Marine Air Force cousin tonight. So we miss Chris, but we have got the best in the business joining us with Missy. The team is doing, the Bayshore Christian team this year is doing much better. They've played a real tough schedule. They've gotten over COVID, seems to have things going in the right direction. We were supposed to have Jed Kirby tonight. We may still have Jed. Jed is at a Tampa Bay Super Bowl party, so he's with the Mr. Big Shot crowd while the rest of us are here talking about high school basketball. And I'm hoping that John Blogger rides him into the ground for not being here.
Definitely.
But he might join us. Listen, it doesn't get any better than this. To see these former players and to be here with Melissa is just the greatest time. And I'm going to introduce everyone here, and we're going to start with he was a youngster on this team. I think he was a sophomore. He would have 2 more years of domination, but he had a crucial role in the final series of events in this game, and of course was a crucial part of the team, and that is Damon Allen. Damon, say hello.
Hey, how y'all doing? I appreciate being here. Thank you. It's truly a blessing to see everybody on here, man. Awesome.
Yeah, it is a blessing. Absolutely. And then, of course, we've had him on before. This was the 2nd episode ever. It was called Blocher versus Blocher, who had the best career. And this was the starting point guard who probably had one of the most memorable assists in school history. That is John Blocher. John, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Very good.
Great to see you. Thanks for having us.
And then, of course, there is the man himself. Probably the most memorable shot and moment in maybe Tampa high school basketball history. And there he is joining us for the first, I think some people haven't seen this man in over 2 decades. And that is Beau Miracle Hinely. Beau, say hello.
Hey guys, and I didn't even know John had a brother until I started watching these podcasts. So it's John Blocher only.
Hey, I'm right there with you, Beau. I didn't know either.
Yep.
Because there is only one blocker, number 34.
Oh, very good. Very good. Hey, everybody, before we get started with some questions, we've already got some Facebook comments from one of the Mount Rushmores himself, John J.D. Edwards, part of the OGs with Coach Valdez's first team, says hello to everybody. So real good that John is on the podcast tonight with us or watching the podcast tonight. First thing I want to share, and we'll start with Damon. The first thing I want to share is, let's start with Beau, because this is a line from Chris Pate from the episodes of the top 10 games of all time, or maybe top 10 teams. I don't remember which one. Chris Pate famously said that the 94-95 team, which I consider the greatest miracle moment Final Four team, we're here with some of the greatest players in Bayshore history. Chris Pate says that team was a dog that should have been put down. Beau Hinely, what is your response to that statement?
Well, I was listening to it, and by the way, there's a very good podcast. I mean, I enjoyed listening to it. So don't get me wrong on that, but I was listening to it, and I was like, there's probably a lot of things that he's not aware of. And I kind of wanted to give a background into the transition that we had to make from 93, 94 to 94, 95. Because there was a lot of unique things that happened to us. And I kind of just want to cover. So you want me to go over those real quick?
Yeah, real quick, because we're going to
Okay.
circle back to everybody. So if you don't get the whole list of things you want to get out tonight, we'll come back to you on another question.
Okay, so some things that he kind of failed to, I think of or realize with this team that was, first of all, 93, 94 had probably one of the best 3-point shooters in the history of the state at that time that we had lost. So we had to fill that void.
Jonathan
The
Johnson.
next thing, Jonathan Johnson. So he's a senior and graduated. Next thing was, we had to replace 80% of the scoring production from the previous year. You had 6 guys that had left. So 5 of them were seniors. And then one tree, obviously, we were hoping could make it, and he didn't make it. So you had that. And then we had a first-year coach. I love Coach Sam, but obviously first-year coach, there's going to be some learning pains there. So it was a little bit different culture, for us. And I think of all the teams that needed some discipline, it was that 95 team. And so
No.
yeah, we are and so the other thing is tough schedule. That was a big part of it. I've been listening to your podcast, and it seems like every year they have a tough schedule, but it felt like every other game we were playing was bigger schools than us. And I was looking at the stats, and against our own class, we went 18-3 against 1A schools. So those are things that I don't know if he thought about. I think we won 6 of our last 8 games down the stretch. So we got hot when we needed to. Just took us a little bit of time to find our identity. I think once you consider those things, I think easily we could be in consideration for one of the best teams.
Without question. I agree. I got a couple more Facebook comments. John Harville, also another one of the original gangsters back from Coach Valdez's first crew, says hello. And then Michael Rudolph, I probably have met him and maybe knew him when I was around campus, but I did not go to school with him. So he probably is friends with you guys. He also says hello to everyone. So that's really nice.
Hi, Mike. I remember Mike.
There you go. And
Yeah.
before we go to Blocher and Damon, let's go to Missy. Missy, what are your thoughts? What do you want to ask John or Damon for us to get that you want to ask about that season?
John or Damon about the season? This is why I can only do the cheerleading podcast.
Ask us who our favorite cheerleaders were.
What the locker room was like.
All of them.
That's right. I love them all.
Yeah.
We love cheering for you guys. I remember we definitely screamed our hearts out and cheered our hearts out, and we were all in. I remember crying and laughing and being angry and feeling the bad calls and celebrating the good calls and all that. But yeah, no, Steve, I have no questions for them right now. Just let me, I got real distracted with the kids. I just got to get a little, settled in here.
Totally understand. I'm so excited to have these guys on the show. So I'm like all over the place. Let's go to Damon Allen. Damon, I loved you back then. I spent time with your dad and you, and I had you driving in my car to games and stuff or practice, and just loved you to death. Tell us about, you're a sophomore, you've got a senior in Beau Hinely, you've got an upperclassman, a junior in John Blocher. What do you remember from that season? Not the game yet, we're going to get to the game, but from that season, what are your thoughts and memories?
So my first thought was, what was Coach Sam thinking about bringing me to varsity? Because I was like,
Oh,
I didn't think that I was going to even be on varsity due to the fact that I knew the people who were coming back. And then when Coach Sam said, you're not going to be playing JV this year, because I had all intentions in my head thinking that I was going to be playing JV, because the year before that, with my point guard right here, number 34, the only Blocher, we went 17-1. 10-0 in the conference, 10-0 in the district. We did something from when I was told that never been done at Bayshore history. The only team that we lost to was Wymore Tech, and that's because we didn't have JJ Morales at that game, or I think one other person didn't show up for that game, but we went to Wymore and we lost that game in Orlando. But other than that, we handle business. But I clearly thought I was going to be playing JV that year. And when Coach Sam came to me and said, you're going to have to fill the role of coming up to varsity. And he says, I'm going to need you to, to play. And I'm like, okay. So I took that as a blessing and as a humbling experience. And, I thank God for the opportunity, even though that year I called myself the 2-minute man because there was games that I only got in for the last 2 minutes of the second and the fourth quarter. But, I thank God for that because, sometimes you have to watch in order to learn. And you can't be out there making mistakes, but you learn from watching others, and you take those notes, and when you have the opportunity, you make the most of it. So, that season, I thank God that whoever said what they said about an old dog that should have been put down, adversity shows great things. All year long, we were tested. I know we played in Clearwater High School. I know there was games in the Christmas tournaments that we were tested. And even though on the win-loss column, it looked, like it didn't ever in Bayshore history. But the thing is that you can't put an old dog down because they still have life. And what we had was life. And as it showed with Beau Hinely making that shot, didn't matter how bad we were down. At the end of the game, it proved elsewise. So, but yeah, that season was great. The year before, the first person I ever met was number 34. I met him by the soda machine, and he told me, he said, "Hey, you're new here," and I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, welcome. My name is John." He said, "I'm your point guard," and I was like,
Aw.
"Okay."
I was so excited.
Let's
I had somebody else 6'5" in there. I was
oh yeah.
This is unrelated to basketball, just for 1 second, sorry. Damon, you mentioned about when being asked onto varsity from JV and you weren't prepared for that, and you talked about it was a humbling experience, and you speak humbly about how you learned. And I just was going to say to you, 20 years since I've seen you, that's what I remember about you all through high school and our times at Bayshore, was you were just
No
a
doubt.
humble, true to yourself, true to your salvation, true to Christ, humble spirit. So I love that all this time later and all this life has passed, and there you are, you're still humble. I love it. I'm just proud of you.
That's really
Likewise about you, Missy. I mean, what I remember about you the most, man, is you loved Jesus Christ, and not because your dad was a pastor or anything like that, but because of who you were, man. I mean, like, I remember my freshman year seeing you cry after a game. I remember seeing you go through so much, and I thought you were amazing as a cheerleader, but most importantly, as a woman of God. I will never. There's certain people in life that you never forget, so you're definitely one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry guys, back to basketball.
no. That's awesome. That's really
That's
what
part
it's all about.
It
And
was 1997 when we left, when we graduated together. So
Yep.
here we are. All this time later is cool.
Facts.
it's so
I'll
awesome.
tell you what, neither one of you guys have aged. That's
That's right.
You didn't see me walking up the stairs.
I put on some years, but David and Missy look like they're in 10th, 11th grade still.
Oh, I'll take it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take it.
Let's go
That's the
straight.
facial hair for you, John.
There you go.
If you got your facial hair, I'm pretty sure you'd be just the same way, man. I'm really
Let's go
surprised
straight-
about Beau. Beau couldn't grow facial hair in high school.
I could not. I couldn't.
Like, this is crazy. It's like looking at a different person, That's crazy.
Hey, I
That's
need
so
to jump
true.
in real quick, guys. Before we get to the only blocker, online, we've got John Edwards, again, Original Gangsters, pointing out Little John Blocker used to entertain the fans at halftime. He also says this is what Bayshore is all about and bonds all of us. So the things that Melissa was sharing and Damon was sharing, and all of you guys, really just sort of talks about the connection of the family, of the Bayshore family. And I want to go now to the only blocker, not the other blocker, the only blocker. John, is your brother watching tonight, by the way?
I
I'm
can't
sure he'll
find
start
it.
texting me here shortly after all
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't weighed in as to, which blocker is which, but tell us about, we've got a lot of, we've got so much Bayshore history here. I'm so giddy about it, but tell us about your thoughts about that season. You had pointed out in previous podcasts that 94 team, you might have had the chance to move up with that group, but did not want to, wanted to stay with your crew, Damon and all those guys. So now you're moving up and it's Beau Hinely's crew. There's the senior, Jed Kirby. What was your thoughts? How did you make that team run? What was your thoughts on that season?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't remember too much of it until you guys started doing these podcasts and I'd started digging into it a little bit. I totally forgot that our record was that terrible. I thought we were a much better team. We had good guards. We had Scott was our forward, right? Our small forward.
Mhm.
So who started, Beau? Was it me, you, Scott, Jed, and Fielder?
And Fielder.
And
Yeah, let me interrupt and say Fielder was invited. He texted us back. He could not participate this evening because of work commitments, but he certainly wants to be on a future episode. We'll try to accommodate him. But John Fielder, obviously, as you just said, was a crucial component to the success of this team. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, John.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just remember that year's when we all started wearing the burgundy warm-ups, the jumpsuits. Remember those, the Nike?
Apps?
And we all looked sharp.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just like changed the complexion of the team. We all went into the opposing gym. We looked good. You had a couple 6'5" and aboves. It was pretty intimidating. I just love sitting in the tunnel waiting for the game to start for we can come out there and warm up. I just love that. In the tunnel, everybody's getting pumped up, ready to play. I wish I could go do it right now. I'm starting to sweat just thinking about it. But Damon's 2 minutes that he's talking about that he got to play that year a game. If Damon didn't play that 2 minutes and block that shot, I don't get to dribble the ball to half court and call timeout, and Beau doesn't make that shot without Damon's block shot.
We're going to get to that in a moment. You're exactly right.
Yeah. JD Edwards, you said he chimed in and said hello. None of you guys had the privilege of watching this guy play, I don't believe. If anybody did, it would have been Beau, but I don't think so. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I would go down to watch Bayshore play because my brother was looking to go there. And to watch Harville and JD and JoJo Santiago, those were the three guards. And I was 8, 9 years old watching those guys, and I was in awe of JD Edwards. JD Edwards was a bad mamma jam on the basketball court. And he was intimidating because he had a mustache. And he was just a small guy with a mustache. I always thought he was old. I always asked my dad, this guy's a grown man playing out here. This is crazy. But he was awesome to watch. I'm glad he said hi. It's good to hear from him. I just wish we could have won more games because I think if we had a better record, there'd be a lot more talk that our team could have been closer to 10 teams. But our record is what it was.
I think you're exactly right on the wins and losses. I think that we've talked about it in previous podcasts, and Beau has already mentioned it. The schedule was unprecedented. If you go look back at every schedule, lots of the great teams had hard schedules. You guys had one of the hardest schedules night in and night out. Beau, we're going to go back to you. We want to save the game's final moments as the last part of the show. Tell us about what were you at any point saying we're not going to go to the Final Four? This team is not good enough. When were the doubts there, and what game or series of events did you overcome those doubts?
It's actually a good question. I would say, when it started to creep in was probably the district final versus Lakeland Christian. I think we'd won districts every year since '89 before that year.
Yep.
And, we lost by 2. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that was
Lakeland Christian. Yeah.
Yeah. That was probably the toughest loss of the year for me. I don't know personally. But the ability to bounce back from that, when we played Keswick, and that was another game. I don't know if Damon remembers that he played a crucial role in that game as well. He talked about not playing long, but he started getting increased minutes towards the end of the year. And that was another,
intense times. Damon was getting more play.
Right.
Yeah. The crucial times there. So I'd say that was the biggest one. That was the doubting moment. During the regular season, I don't know if you're thinking as much about it. A big turning point in the season for us, I think, was that when we won at St. Pete Catholic. I don't know if anybody look at the records. I kind of went back and looked at that. We had lost by 29 points to that same team earlier. And then we go to their place and win. That was kind of a good turning point for us, I think. And then being able to bounce back from that Lakeland Christian loss. I think that's who we played, right?
It was.
Yeah. So those are probably the two big ones for me.
I'm going to turn to Damon and of course, Melissa, feel free to jump in. I've got a couple of Facebook comments first.
I was looking to see what John Blocher wrote in my yearbook in '95.
Oh no!
Do you have it? Do you have
I
it?
found Damon and I found Jed, but
This don't get any better.
well, I don't know what they wrote yet. But sorry, what were you going to say?
I'll do the Facebook while you're looking. Jared Piazza, you guys know he says his father, Mr. Piazza, liked Beau a lot. Always had nice things to say about you. Jared Piazza also says you're looking good, Riley. Is that Riley Blocher?
Real funny. Funny.
Oh my God.
Okay, so it looks like we found the Facebook posting.
I don't know how to do this Zoom stuff. She has it for school. So I just clicked right onto her. So
no, absolutely. I'm the same way. Melissa, what do you have in the yearbook?
This is from Damon Allen, 1995. So what we were sophomores.
15, yeah.
Missy, I hope you have a good summer. I hope you and Andy become closer over the summer. He's talking about Andy Hill. We were like 2 years in high school, Andy Hill. Become closer over the summer with God, because a couple that prays together stays together, which is very sweet, but I'm pretty sure we broke up like before the end of this school year. 2 weeks later, maybe. I don't know. I wish you all the best. I hope to see you next year. Remember to keep God number one always. So true to who you are still today. Matthew 6:33, which I don't know off the top of my head. Do you know the specific?
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you.
And Damon Allen, number 10. That is autograph, guys.
That's really cool. Hey, Damon, are you do you teach Sunday school or anything? Like, do you take this knowledge that you have, this experience, and are you able to share it in any ways through teaching?
So I mean, throughout my whole entire life, God has allowed things to happen and to be able to minister when he says so. So, right now, because, the world always sees it as you need a license or anything to that nature. I'm working on that right now. So hopefully within a year's time, I'll be ordained and go on from there. So, but yeah, I've had an opportunity to be a blessing in the military as well. We can talk about those experiences later, but a lot of people I've been blessed to meet and see their life never be the same ever again, because they come to know Jesus Christ, and find favor with me to just be an intricate or a tiny part in seeing their transition from not knowing him to coming to know him for themselves. And it's truly been a blessing. So coaching kids and seeing their, kids who didn't have it in them to over a summer hungry and thirsty and becoming better athletes and better men and, and role models in their schools. So, I take no credit for anything. I just thank God for the ability to be there. So, yeah, everything that he pours in, I try to give. So
That's really tremendous. And we definitely want to make sure we oftentimes don't ask everybody to share their bio or their history. We just want to go straight into basketball and high school, but it's very important to say thank you for your service to the country. And of course, to see your service in Christ's kingdom is really amazing. So thank you for sharing that. I want to go back to the only blocker again. And John, your memories are suspect, but I want to see if you do remember, like I asked Beau, when we got out of district, when we lost to Lakeland Christian, a team that we had beaten by 40 points, was there any doubt? Are we going to get back to the Final Four? Because you're right in the middle of the Final Four run, the domination of the Empire, and it's a new, Coach Valdez is gone. It's a new era. Are you going to live up to expectations? What were your thoughts after that Lakeland Christian game, if you recall?
No, I recall that game. Upset that we lost, obviously, because like Beau said, we had the district title streak. But honestly, I knew if we still had a chance to move on with our squad, we had a fighting chance. And I had the confidence that we could do it. I didn't know it was going to come down to the miracle at Ramey like that to get it done. I'm glad it did, but we were a confident bunch. I mean, we really were. We had a good mix of guys. Everybody played well together. I never really doubted that we could do it. I mean, it's just me.
That's great. That's great to hear. And that really sort of speaks again, Bayshore Christian guys, Faith Warrior guys, never really think we're going to lose ever. We always had that confidence, and that's great to hear from your team and your perspective as well. Got a few more Facebook comments. Jared Piazza says, love you, D. To Damon. Amanda Bush says hello to everyone. Mrs. Volpe, Coach Volpe's wife, says got a lot of good memories from that time. So she's saying hello. So I think that's really neat to share as well. We don't want to quite yet get to that game. There's so much more I want to ask you guys. Beau, so we've talked about, going back to you, we've talked about, do you remember that season? Were there doubts? What was the, aside from the miracle at Ramey, what was the best game that you guys played? It sounded like St. Pete Catholic could be one of them. So what was maybe your best game? What is a memory of a game performance that you thought, yeah, we're pretty good? Because y'all had a great roster. As all of y'all have said, that was a great roster. There was high expectations. Tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you're right about the talent. I mean, it seemed like we were inconsistent at different levels throughout the season. But we had enough talent to, when we were able to put it together, all show up on the court at the same time. That's what made the difference. But yeah, I mean, I really think it was that St. Pete Catholic game. It keeps going back in my mind. I already covered it once, but that was the big one for me, where, it kind of gave us, I think, confidence going into it. Going back to expecting to win, that was a big thing for me. I don't know if it was subconscious or, something you just felt innate inside you. There's a culture there where the playoff comes, we're going to find a way to get it done. And that was a big part of that regional final game, finding a way to get it done. I know we'll get into that, but we were getting pounded in that first half there. So it's just kind of a microcosm of the late season as a whole, so that was probably the biggest for me.
Damon, and again, Melissa, please jump in when you have, and especially if you've got John Blocker's face.
I haven't found it yet, but you think Michael Rudolph was number 45? It just says Michael R, number 45.
I don't know.
Who's that? Maybe it was
Rudolph
number 45. What?
Rudolph didn't play basketball.
Yeah, he didn't play basketball.
Right. Well, who's
He
Michael
played
R,
spades.
number 45?
Michael Rudolph played spades.
Michael Sheffield.
Yeah, Michael Sheffield. Yeah, that was Michael Sheffield.
Oh, we can call him KIT. I got his phone number right here. We can
What's
call
the
him
phone
later.
number? What's the phone number?
I'm sure the phone number hasn't changed in 25 years.
But I got Scott Crone. I found Scotty Crone too.
Scotty Crone.
No John Blocker yet. I don't know.
Hey, John, you remember that one time when Scotty Crone drove that Yugo and we picked his car up and put it on the
The
hill?
red car.
Yes.
No wonder he won't respond to us. We're trying to reach out to this guy. You scarred him for life when you moved his car.
No, we didn't, because Scott Crone got huge after graduation. Like he transformed.
Yeah, something happened to that guy.
Like he just went from this to like this. He was just bulked up. I was
I
like,
remember he was
God.
swole.
Scott Crone was a great shooter. I mean, you had Beau on one wing, you had Crone on the other, you had rebounding in the post, and you had the best point guard in the county. So, I mean, you had all of the pieces. Damon, looking at that season, we've talked about, were there any doubts? I don't think we got that answer from you, though. Was there a moment where you felt like, man, we may not be able to do it? What are your memories from back in that time? Or were you supremely confident regardless?
So, like I said, I mean, I was just happy to be. I think I was I mean, I know Coach Sam brought some other players up because I think of injuries or anything, and to stack the team a little more for foul trouble purposes. But I was blessed to be there. So that year, every time we went into a game, I thought it was going to be a W. And there's two things that happen in life: either you win or you learn. So we learned 19 times that year. But we need to do better. But the thing is,
guys out there.
A lot of learning.
But the thing is, we got there. I will definitely say what made me, and Beau probably doesn't know I know this, but what made me continue to push was I remember Beau, his dad got on him, and Beau was Beau. I ain't trying to put your business out there, but he cried, and he was emotional due to the fact that because Beau respected what his father said. Like him and his dad, I remember were really close, and Beau had a moment right there where he was like, "Yo, I don't know what to do," but that was my connection with Beau. I got to talk to him, and we got to work it out. And then I think Beau came out and just started scorching people in that game. I mean, he lit it up. Left-handed assassin. I mean, that dude was the truth. But I knew, like, hey, if this senior can dig deep and put his emotions aside and continue to play, then I know that we could do it. I think my only disappointment was when we lost to Malone. Throughout the whole season, any loss that we had, it didn't matter because the real season starts in the post. And regardless of how many games we had lost in the regular season, we were still there. We got stomped on by Temple Heights, and I never forgot. And every year after that, my junior and my senior year, I always reminded the team, like, yo, these cats put us on TV. These cats put us on TV at their house, and they beat the brakes off us. And only reason why I knew that, because I didn't get to play. I was on crutches that game. But they beat the brakes off of us.
Why were you on crutches? I don't remember that.
I sprained my ankle prior to in one of the game before that, and my dad and my coach and Coach Sam would let me play, but it was hard to sit there on the bench and watch that game. But
that game hurt. I remember that well. I had there were a lot of players on Temple Heights that I knew because I went there my freshman sophomore year. And we'd beaten them my junior year, and we beat them pretty good, so it felt good. But yeah, I remember that well, and they were dogging. Hey, John, is this the burgundy?
Oh my God!
Oh, that's it.
As
now
soon as
we're
you said it, I
talking.
was like, I think I have that still.
Now we're talking.
50 years.
Wow,
awesome.
That is crazy.
Oh yeah.
That
And
is
if you were a girl that got to wear one of the guys of those, then you'd really made it at Bayshore Christian School.
Yeah, yeah, I wore that thing with pride.
Oh, that is, you got to send a picture so I can put it on the Facebook page. Real quick, we got some more Facebook comments. Mike Rudolph is commenting. It's such a good guy. And also Elijah Piazza, who says, Beau, thank you for everything you and your family has done for me, with an exclamation point. Real good stuff there, Damon. We're going to turn back to the only blocker, and we're going to start talking about that game. We're going to go through game day, what happened during the game, and lead up to the end. I want to give you a quote. This was in the newspaper the day after the miracle at Ramey, the day after the victory. And this is from the coach from Bradenton Christian. I guess as the final minutes approached, we were intimidated by the banners on the wall, all of that history staring down at us. Coach's name was Don Vandepol for Bradenton Christian. Give us your thoughts on, we're going to go through the game, but I'd like to know, did you think anything of them? Did you respect them before? Did you respect them afterwards? Like, I wouldn't have. I mean, they were the opponent. They were the enemy. But what were your thoughts about beating that team? Because they had upset Derek and Andrick in 92. They were a real basketball program. They put time into it. They went to camp. They had players. They had size. They were ranked. So this was an upset. I mean, you guys were, if you had a betting line in Vegas, the underdog. What were your thoughts about your opponent going into that game?
I don't remember much about them. Probably my mentality at the time was, "You're next. Let's do it."
Right.
I mean, seriously. I mean, I don't follow other teams. I am going to hit rewind though about the Temple Heights thing, because It bothers me. Beau, if you remember that year correctly, they went out and recruited 3 guys.
Yes.
Okay, 2 of them were absolute monsters, the big black dudes underneath that threw Jed around and Fielder around like they weighed 12 pounds. That's all. It's Jed and Fielder's fault. And Damon was hurt, so I can't. The guards played magnificent that game.
Yeah. And the other guy they recruited who was awesome was, I think his last name was Rodriguez. And he ended up playing at Virginia Tech. That guy was an absolute stud. And they dominated.
Yeah, he got the 2 big black boys underneath, and then Rodriguez was up top. He was
Hey, listen, you guys go to Bayshore Christian. That's not supposed to matter. Temple Heights was our stomping opponent, like who we beat the snot out of.
You're 100% correct, but they did a little recruiting trick.
All right.
He had a good year.
And they put that game on TV too, Steve. Like, I'll never forget that. But the one thing I remember, just like this whole put the dog down, I remember seeing in every paper, like, who was highly favored to go to state. And every team that was highly favored that year to go to state was watching Bayshore Christian in the semifinals.
That's right.
Where was that on? I mean, when it was on TV, do you say it was like on Sun Network? What was do you remember the channel?
It was, so you remember that that TV station that TV Access or something
Public
like that?
access. Yeah,
Public access. Yeah, it was on that. It was on that, and I remember going home, and it was on a Saturday, and I cut the TV on. I was like, "Yo, that's me walking on it with some crutches on it," and I was like, "They really put this game on TV?" And then I never forgot that, yo. And I told Coach Sam, and Coach Sam was like, "Yep, I never forgot that, never." And we never lost them ever again. I promise you, not while I was there.
Yeah, no, I mean, we make fun of Temple Heights. Like John Blocher said, they did recruit some guys that season. They always had football, so they had athletes. So we make fun of them, but in reality, Keswick is really the one that we beat every single time we play them. Temple Heights had some years, especially in the early 80s when Coach Rado just got there, where they had some really good teams, and obviously y'all faced another good one that year. Beau, go to game day at Bayshore Christian, red top, lunchtime, classroom. We're leading into that night. Do you remember what was going on in your mind with your classmates? What was happening at that time?
Typical game day, you always feel like you're a little bit on a high, natural high you're on. So there was that, playoffs, the chance to, if you're going to win that next game, you're going to state Final Four. There was that. And there was a reason, I can't remember why we were hosting that game. Were we supposed to host that game? Because we were not the higher seed.
Yeah, no, back then the state predetermined every 2 years what region or section would host the games. It was just our turn. So sort of fortune favored, Bayshore that year.
So we wore our maroons at home. I think I remember that.
Yep.
And so that was the weird part, but just leading up to it, it was just, build atmosphere on top of intensity, knowing the playoffs, game day, and then win this one more. Because we were hot that game before. We played Everglades City, and we were hot that game. We pretty much pulled away from them in the second half. The toughest one was the Keswick game, like you were saying. There was back and forth. We were only up by like 2 or 3, won by a couple free throws.
That was a great game. That was a fun game to play in.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was kind of when things kind of clicked for us. And then, just leading up to it. Yeah, that was, and I felt confident, like you were saying, it's the next opponent. I thought we were going to beat them. It's that atmosphere, that culture we had.
That's really good. That's exactly right. The culture. Missy, again, feel free to jump in.
I was just going to say, I remember a much cheesier aspect of it, like just from being a cheerleader was, those were the days too, when we were all out of class. I think like the whole day, some way or another, we were painting a banner, or we were practicing something, or we were fixing somebody had a safety pin, their uniform, because, I don't know. It was just, I remember the high, like John was talking about, because that was our own little planet inside of the BCS bubble. We had all our different niches and cliques within the tiny BCS clique. So, but I remember like just the vibe on the whole campus, and you would even start, I don't know what time the Hunsuckers started cooking, but it would be
Right.
early in the day, like we were rocking and rolling. They would have the concession stand getting ready. And I remember, I don't know. I just feel like I remember there was just a buzz. The whole campus was a buzz every time. So it was a neat.
Well, that's how it was every game day for me. I didn't pay attention in class on game day. I mean, I was ready to play.
Never paid attention in class.
Watch. I would.
Wait, Melissa just said that you didn't pay attention in class at all anyways.
Yeah, it's true. But on game day, once you got to
Especially.
lunchtime, you go back to your next period and you're like, 2 more periods. And then
Heck
we're gonna go eat as a team.
Palios, baby.
It's time to get in mode. It's time to
Yeah.
get in game mode. I just couldn't wait for that.
Well, it's important to point out, I mean, for whoever may watch this, a lot of people are watching these episodes or podcasts, which really surprised us. We thought it would be like our wives, we'd force our children and that would be it. But a lot of people are watching them, and it's important to set the stage here before I go to Damon next. This game has been talked about on Facebook a lot. Beau Hinely was kind enough to get us a copy of it, and now it's on YouTube. So thank you, Beau, for doing that. But it's very important. Anybody clicks forward on this episode and to this point, this is a seminal moment in Bayshore Christian basketball history. It's not just that it was a program that produced kids that played in college, or it had the most iconic coach in Tampa history in Herman Valdez. This school's been around before Coach Valdez, has been around since then. It's had different basketball coaches. It just kept winning. And this game is unlike any other because we're the underdog. We're playing a program that would be considered the favorite. They are actually one of the first. We talk about Jonathan Johnson, but Braden and Christian had a perimeter 3 game. So they had some bigs, but they had 2 or 3 guys that would shoot the 3, and that's what they looked for as part of their offense.
And
This is
they
one of
were
the biggest.
ranked, weren't they, Steve?
What's that?
Well, they were ranked in the top 10.
Oh, yeah, they were ranked 8th, but had been ranked top 5 most of the year. They were 23-7 coming into the game. They were a legitimate program, not with our history, but certainly capable of beating us. And so this is a really crazy exciting time for a 16 and 17-year-old on campus at that time. And Bayshore, of course, had much higher student population, and it was at the height of its power. So Damon, let's go to the game, and I'm going to jump into the first quarter. It looks like some of our guys have some nerves. There's some missed layups, some turnovers. We are down basically from the beginning and into the second half. Tell us what you remember. We're going to go around one more cycle, so don't get to the end, but tell us what you remember leading into halftime, third quarter, about the game and what you remember seeing and happening.
So I know earlier that day, I don't know if it was Blocher or if it was Jed that said this to me, but I know that they talked to me and told me one thing. They said there's only one BCS team that's going to win tonight.
Very good.
And he said, so come ready to be playing. And I'm like, okay. So I remember that team game dinner at Palios. I remember that nobody was joking at that time. Nobody was messing around at that time. Everybody ate dinner and got back to the film room, and we got taped up. Mr. Glickman was doing his thing, and then I remember Coach Sam writing on that chalkboard like he always did, and then he turned around and he said, "Okay, this is gave his sermon before, and then after that, he went into how many rebounds we should be having by halftime, how many assists that we should have. If we go on the free throw line, what should we do?" It was all business, and that's the mentality that we had. One of the things that I knew about that team, and I think any team that I ever played for at Bayshore, was that everybody had no ego. Nobody had an ego. Nobody was just like for self. Everybody was there for one mission and one mission only, and that's to go to state and win. So everybody was business-like, from Jed and Beau and Scott. Everybody was focused. Then Blocher being our floor general, couldn't ask for anybody better. And, the other, Fielder and Jed down low, they couldn't be stopped. The thing is that playing with that mentality, and you could cut the you could cut the suspense and I'm getting even chills right now just talking about it, man. I mean, the whole atmosphere of that gym that night was different. Like you knew something was going to happen. And I think it started from when one of those guys said there's only going to be one BCS team that's going to win tonight. So I remember that as clear as day. Like we're gonna get this done. So that's one thing I truly remember about that game. It was a dog fight. It was tense, and it was memorable. That's what I remember. And going into halftime, even though we may have been down, Coach Sam didn't see it that way. Coach Sam didn't let us get down. Coach Sam said, "Get your head out your butt, and let's go back to work." So
That's really good. And it's hard to, you just laid it all out. It's hard to understate all of the Bayshore history that goes into this game. You got Steve Glickman, you got Palios, you got the tension of the day, you got the importance of the game to go to the Final Four, you got the crowd. Anybody who watches the video, that's one of the great Bayshore crowds in terms of the chants at the refs and all. It was just great. So we're going to turn back now to the only blocker, and Damon, because he's such a good man, gives props to Fielder and Jed. But early in the game, John Blocher, you could not have been happy, because if I remember correctly, there was a whole lot of assists that were served up that weren't finished, maybe because of nerves or what have you. I remember a Blocher left-handed dribble drive. I remember a Crone 3, a Beau 3. Beau gets hot the whole second half. But I remember some of our bigs not finishing. What are your thoughts beginning of game into halftime and going into the third quarter?
Man, I'm sweating right now. I want to go do this. I'm like drenched under this. Goosebumps. As soon as Damon says he's got goosebumps, I got goosebumps.
That's great.
First of all, Beau, thanks for getting that video out there, because I watched it. Damon, did you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, I watched it. That was awesome.
That was crazy. One thing about Mr. Hinely, when he got to the game, his tie was always all the way to the top. You got to halftime down about 2 inches, then you got to the quarter, and the back's down here at his belly button. I'll never forget Mr. Hinely running around, pointing, yelling, cheering. It was great.
Oh my God.
That was a great time. I watched. I didn't really remember much of the game except for that fourth quarter, but when I watched the video, I mean, we did. It had to be nerves. I mean, everybody was missing shots they normally make. Passes bouncing off of people's hands. You know, I turned the ball over a few times. Just stuff that we normally didn't do. So it was probably a nerve thing. But I think the first half, once we got to halftime and we got settled down, I think halftime couldn't have come at a better time, because we went out there, we got trucked a little bit. Let's go take a break. Let's figure out what's going on. And, like Damon said, Beau caught on fire in the second half. Thank God, because he was the only one really doing anything.
Right.
Fielder hit a couple shots. Crone, Scott was always good for 15 points, and I don't think he scored that much that game, did he? I think it was just
Two or three threes.
I think it was pretty much Beau and Fielder that game that were scoring.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Steve said, we had some assists that, easy layups that you get the ball into their hands. Normally it's 2 points, maybe a 3-point play. That wasn't going right. And then, halftime we adjusted and stopped turning the ball over, which started with me because I had the ball in my hand on every play. And everybody just started picking it up a little bit. Defensively, we played a lot better in the second half. So we must have made adjustments. I don't know the speech at halftime. I'm not thinking we're getting our butts.
Let me jump in and say, I don't know about the speech at halftime, because if you watch the video and from memory, the third quarter starts and you're down 8, they actually increase the lead. With about 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, they are now up 13 points, and we call timeout, and their crowd is going nuts. So I'm going to go back to Beau. We're going to go ahead and lead into the final moments, because these are the 3 guys that make it happen. We have the block, we have the inbounds pass, and we have the shot, and we have the 3 guys that made that happen right here with us. Lead us into that fourth quarter, Beau, because it wasn't just the block, the pass, the shot. you got hot in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You know, so
Can I just backtrack
please.
just a second here? I want to say something about the tape too. I don't know if you talked about it in the podcast. Did you tell anybody what had happened about that tape?
No.
Okay, because that tape was lost. That tape was not going to be found. Jed Kirby had contacted me several times on LinkedIn and asking me about it. So I went to the familiar places that I thought I could find it, and I told him I can't find that thing, man. And then you'd gotten back in touch with me over several times, like on Twitter or something. And man, I rummaged through my entire mom's house, found it in one of her tapes in her closet somewhere. I don't even know how it got there. I mean, that was a miracle in itself. And then the other thing too, I didn't really pay attention to this when we were in the game. You kind of block those things out, but they evidently brought a lot of people to that game, Bradenton Christian, because they were loud. It was almost like a home game. Listening to the video, it was almost like a home game for them. And then as far as the game, like Jed Kirby was our leading scorer that year. I think he had like 13 points a game. Yeah, and he was at one of those rare nights it was just off. Yeah, I remember that as well because he had several layups. So it was so yeah. Anyway, so leading up to like you were saying, I think they had 12 or 13 point lead. They were up by 10 starting the fourth quarter, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so it was a good crunch time. And I think, like John said, we got opportunistic on defense. They started getting a lot of turnovers. We shut down their threes because they started getting real cold in the three in the second half. And so leading up to that, back and forth, I was trying to remember, when did we tie it up? Was it less than a minute to go, like 50 seconds to go?
Yeah, and even less than that, it was you hit a three to tie it at 56. You had hit another three before that to give us our first lead. And then they went back ahead, and then we tied it at 56.
That's right.
Like 32 seconds. They tried to run some clock, turned it over. We turned it over. A series of events.
Yeah, that's right. They started playing off me a little bit. I remember that in the fourth quarter. So they were sagging off of me, and I'm like, "Well, if you're gonna leave me, I'm gonna shoot it." So yeah, it just happened to we're the hot person that night, and then going back to that block, man, that's the unsung thing that I think is as important as the shot. If that block doesn't happen, they make that shot. I don't know if we overcome that. That's one of the big things for me.
That's exactly right. And we're going to go straight to Damon and then to John with the pass and then go to back to Beau with the shot. But Damon.
Well, hold on real quick.
Yeah.
Like Beau just said, if they would have scored on that, we don't have that luxury of being tied. So we weren't, I guess I wasn't nervous bringing the ball up the court. If we would have been down 2 points, that could have changed the whole complexion of what we did from there. I mean, that could have been huge.
You're exactly right. I mean, that's the whole thing is that, so there's 30 seconds left. They have the ball. They make a mistake. We steal it. We drive down, miss a layup. They get it back. It's back and forth. We get an inbounds play in which we take a shot under 10 seconds and miss. They get a fast break transition. It's a 2-on-1 and the one guy to make the play is Damon Allen. Damon, take us through that play because your defensive play is what makes all this happen.
So
Big D comes flying in for the save.
Wow.
I just know everything that happened up until that point, man. It like in my mind, it was just, hey, go stop the ball. That's it. I didn't think it would be.
But how were you in the game? Did you sub in for Fielder or Kirby? Did we go big in that lineup? What do you remember at what point you went into the game and the reasoning? Like coach wanted you in there to make a defensive play. Do you remember that?
I think I came in for Josh Neal because I know he was in the game at that point, and I came in, and then like that series of events
It might have been for the inbounds play from them to have another big underneath.
Right. Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah. So, like I said, that game I didn't get it because it was a crucial game, and I understood that. Like me being a sophomore, I was like, if when coach need me, I was gonna be there. But coach put me in at that time, and I just remember like I wasn't gonna let them score, yo. Like, and I just not just me saying anything about me. I just knew that if I was going to be in, I have to contribute in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So when I seen that guy, I just, stretched my hands out, and I didn't even think I was going to be able to touch the ball. That was my mentality. Like when he touched it and it went out of bounds, and I was like, yes. And I was like, we going back? I said anything can happen. So I mean, it was just one of them things that we went over in practice over and over and over again. Like, battling with these guys right here, going against them in practice day in and day out. Like, and I know that these two guys remember open gym before even the season started. Like we would just go at it, and when it's like that BCS pedigree that was instilled in you before. Like, hey, if you're gonna step on the court, you have to battle, and that's what it was. Like we were battling that whole game, and I got a chance to join the battle during that time, and I thank God that whatever happened at that time happened. So. Yeah.
You're being very humble. I mean, you covered 50 feet of floor space
Yes.
from behind a guy who was dribbling.
High step.
You elevate almost up to the rim to block the shot. It deflects off the Bradenton Christian guy and goes out of bounds. And on the video, you can tell it did go out of bounds off the Bradenton Christian guy, but in the heat of the moment, the ref could have missed that and could have given them the ball.
Because I remember Bradenton, the Christian coach, was like, "What are you talking about?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "No," but it went off of that guy. And I knew one thing that Coach Sam said: never argue with the refs. When the ref said something, it is what it is. So I mean, but you could clearly see from, like you said, the video that it went off of the guy. Like the ball was blocked, and then it touched him and went out of bounds to the right, I think by their bench. And their crowd was going crazy. Our crowd was going crazy. And I all remember is John, when he got the ball, he dribbled up half court, timeout with the ball. And I was like, yo, something's about to happen, yo.
That's exactly right. And I want to ask the only blocker. I was surprised looking back. I obviously don't remember, but watching the video, they had token pressure. They had somebody up, but he was like 6 to 10 feet off of you. Looking back, does that surprise you? And was it obviously a mistake?
We got to the sideline pretty quick. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I probably
like 6 seconds left. It was like 6 seconds left, and then it went to 3 seconds, down to 3 seconds, right?
Beau is pointing out that there was 5 seconds left after your block and the ball went out of bounds. So we had to get it up to half court within 3 seconds. They could have made it a lot harder, and they did not. So they made a huge mistake there. Blocker makes the play to get it to half court and calls timeout. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to discuss one thing before you get started. John Blocher describes the huddle in the Blocker versus Blocker podcast as, number one, he wanted to take the shot. And number two, Sam had a great tactical call, and that was to make sure the ball was thrown in flight, still out of bounds, so that only Beau could catch it. So those are the two things that we've talked about previously. I'll turn it over to the only blocker and then Beau to describe those final moments.
Well, I mean, of course, in that situation, you always want to take the shot. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, everybody wants to take that shot. I mean, but yeah, once he called the play. See, the other day I watched you guys' podcast with Coach Sam. I don't remember. He said that Beau lined up on the other side of the court and ran in and did like a loop. I don't remember you going to the other side of the court. Did we start on the other side of the court, Beau?
I thought I started somewhere on the baseline. I was coming off like a triple screen or something like that. Some kind of insane like curl triple screen to catch it like he was saying on the fly.
You were coming off the baseline, wrapped around, and then came right in front of me.
Yeah.
And that's when we hit it. Yeah, I mean, Coach Sam just said, hey, this is what we're going to do. Beau's left-handed. He didn't say this in the huddle, but when I was talking to him after we broke the huddle, he said, throw the ball out of bounds line. Just do the out of bounds line. He's a lefty. He'll catch it, and he'll have time to shoot.
Hey, what I remember is Beau facing you, and even though he's left-handed, he had to turn towards his left in order to shoot that shot. Like he had to do like a whole 180 to turn around and then shoot it off the glass. I'll never forget that, yo.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
Does that mean
There's no doubt
Blocher's
the
pass
player.
was behind him?
Well, no, we're not going
no.
that route because that's
No, Beau came to him.
What he's trying to say is that he had to be hit perfectly in stride, like Brady's hitting Chris Godwin. Perfectly in stride around the pick, catch it just like this,
and then turn and shoot. Yes, exactly.
Beautiful shot.
Except it didn't look that good. It would look like a desperation circus shot. It was that Chris called the most unathletic shot ever.
It went in, baby. It went in.
That's right. It went in, baby.
Exactly.
I haven't seen
Exactly.
footage of Chris making a shot like that.
Bo,
I
tell
mean,
us,
Mr. Pate.
Bo, tell us, what were you thinking in the huddle as you were told it's coming to you? Did you have confidence in it? Did you say this is Final Four? Tell us what you were thinking in those moments.
Well, I don't know if John remembers this, but I think we both said we want the ball. It was like, I want the ball, and I want the ball.
Yeah. Oh, no,
You know, I was
That's
feeling
great.
it. You know, I think I hit a couple threes there, and I was feeling it. And wasn't usually a vocal leader then, and it was kind of weird that I just came out and said it. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I can't believe I just said that. And it was one of those moments, though, even though it looked like it was absolute desperation, it's kind of weird to think about, but I felt it was going to go in. I already had in my mind it was going to go in. It was kind of weird. You're not like, oh, hope it goes in. I was like, I'm turning. I'm like, this ball's going in, even though it didn't look like it.
That is great. So we are here with the participants in the miracle at Ramey, probably the greatest moment in Bayshore Christian basketball history. Such an improbable ending to an improbable season. I mean, we can all talk about the expectations as we have here tonight, and we can talk about the great roster, but ultimately, when you left the district championship game, the sequence of events that led to that final shot to go to the Final Four are simply improbable. So it's sort of an amazing moment for everybody, and can't thank you enough for you guys being here tonight.
I want to say one thing real quick. Go back on that video. One of the funniest things about that video after I hit the shot is y'all check out Coach Sam. One of the great things is you can go back and look at everybody's reaction after the shot. And the best one is Coach Sam. Did anybody see what happened to him or what he
On the
did after
floor.
the shot? He
Yeah, he went down.
laid out on the floor. I mean, I go back and watch that over and over. It's one of the best moments for me.
Yeah, that is so great. That is so great. We can't, again, thank you guys enough for being here tonight. We want to go to each of you and let you have a last word. Tell us about that moment and tell us about what it meant and anything else you want to share. I want to make sure that I say thank you on behalf of everybody, because that was just a great high school moment. And we always say on this podcast, Bayshore mattered. When I went into my professional work downtown, everybody asked, "Oh, where you go to school?" "Oh, I remember them. They were great at basketball, man. They used to beat so-and-so." And so Bayshore for decades mattered. It's great to see Coach Day and the team keeping it mattering nowadays. We got another Facebook. Rihanna Schwartz says she's saying hi with a waving hand. And
Cheerleader.
hey, Rihanna. And Miss Jordan, Kathy Jordan, she was my Bible teacher, was talking to John Edwards about John Blocher performing for the crowd when he was little. So guys, again, thank you so much. Let's start with Damon. Final thoughts. You were a sophomore. Let's start with Missy, Melissa Charlene, Missy Cabot. What were your final thoughts for these guys as we close out tonight?
I just love you all. I have nothing but, well, I have a little bit of an assortment of memories about John, but Beau and Damon, nothing but just such like precious, special, wonderful. John, I just maybe think I spent a little more time in a closer circle. I don't know. We had both, but I just love the reunion every time, and like seeing everybody as mature grown adults, like all the growing up behind us. We all are just still true to our roots, and it's like just neat every single time, no matter who's in the mix together. And I don't know, I still kind of don't know how I landed on this one tonight, but thank you for inviting me, Steve. I'm glad it worked out. And
well, you have a
anytime, I love to see all of you.
little cult following as well. Everybody always asks if you're going to be back on. So whenever Chris can't be on, we get you.
Oh, how fun.
So
I was going to tell you earlier, Steve, that I don't know, we were talking something about how maybe Beau brought up somebody found him on Twitter or LinkedIn, or I don't know, how this whole thing is like bringing people back together. And even if we've lost touch, we come back in touch now. And I get messages all the time from not even so much my peers, but family members from my parents, like that that are just coming out of the woodwork that know somebody that I'm not Facebook friends with, but they know somebody that's like, hey, make sure you tell them this. And I don't know. I just think it's been a really cool, what is it? Like the tightly knit, there's something very cheesy about the family coming back together.
Family, that you hit it right on the head, family. That's really great. And I absolutely agree, Melissa. And we've said it many times. There are people reconnecting here that need to reconnect. Like they're going through something in their lives, and reconnecting with a Bayshore person has actually saved them, like helped them. And so that's a Jesus thing. And we're very fortunate that it's had that type of impact. Start with you, Damon. Final thoughts on the miracle at Ramey.
I just thank God that we were all a part of it. That He chose us for a time like that to show that even through adversity and trials and tribulations throughout a season. Because even starting at the head, Coach Sam was always my coach. I mean, y'all had Valdez. I knew of Valdez my freshman year because he was the head coach of the varsity team. But my coach was Coach Sam, and he had adversity in his first year of being a head coach, and he did great. I mean, he handled it with poise. He showed us what an example is. He didn't get down, and we weren't going to do that for him either. Like regardless of what happened, he continued to pour into all of us, and with you and the other assistant coaches, Dwayne and all of y'all.
Dwayne Pippen.
Yeah. Like John, I'll never forget. John used to always call him Blaine. he used to ride him all the time. I'll never forget that, yo. But that year was a great year, and John doesn't know this, but when we lost to RJ Hinely his senior year and my junior year, he threw away his shoes, but I took his shoes out of the trash can because I was gonna give them to him the next year.
Wow.
And I was gonna get him bronze because this dude was my point guard. And even though we had Polito and we had Josh Nunnally my senior year, but there would never be another point guard that like the only blocker. I'm telling you, because he was more than just a point guard, man. Like our freshman year, him and I had a double nickel at Lakeland Christian. He had 30, and he was cooking, and I had 25, and from that point on, we clicked. You know what I mean? And that year, my sophomore year, the miracle at Ramey was just a blessing. It was time for everybody to see how God shows up and shows out for the ones that truly believe and don't allow the enemy to steal their joy. Because this man, Beau, I mean, he was ordained to shoot that shot. Like looking at him now, even though he got the beard and everything, he still has the same look on his face.
Looks same, yeah.
In anything. Like he was in Mr. Page's class with me, and he would look at me the same way. Like Beau would look at you, and you would know he's looking at you. And I mean, it's just. But like even in the game, he was just a no nonsense guy, and he wasn't vocal like he said, but his actions spoke louder than his words. And with John passing him one of the best assists he ever had in his career to the shot, I mean, what more can you say about that year? It was truly a blessing. And thank you, Missy, for being our cheerleader. You were
I
awesome.
loved every minute of it.
Yeah, like you taught me what an aerial was. I was like, what the heck is an aerial?
The last time I tried to do an aerial was right after my daughter was born, because until that point it had been like riding a bike. And I remember we were outside, it was after church in this big field right by the church, and I ran to do my aerial, and I just went boom, like right into the grass, flat out like a pancake. I don't think I've ever tried it since.
Cartwheel. Is that what an aerial is?
Yeah, no
cartwheel
hands,
with
no hands. Yeah, I'll never forget that. She taught me what that was. I was like, what the heck is an aerial? And then she did it in the game.
Damon. I forgot I used to do those. I used to do that on a balance beam. Can you believe that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's really great stuff. And Damon, we can't thank you enough. And you just said it again, Coach Sam was your coach, and I had Coach Valdez. They're all connected all the way back to Robinson, Port Tampa, South Tampa. Sam played for Herman. Sam was my assistant coach. And then he had you guys. So it's just, as Melissa said, there's this family that is tied together that goes back decades. We now go to the only blocker for his final thoughts on that miracle at Ramey. John?
Well, I don't know if Beau and Damon could attest to this or speak to this, but I can tell you this: once you posted that video of that game, and I watched it, there were tears in the eyes after watching it. It was an emotional game. It was just emotional seeing it.
Yeah.
It was emotional seeing Beau's dad run around like a maniac. You know, my 300-pound dad doing sprints, coach him on the floor. I mean, everybody was hugging each other. I mean, the place was going nuts. I mean, that was just great to be a part of. And Damon throws all the kind words at me, but if it wasn't for guys like him, Beau, Jed, I was just a player. I mean, you guys made it happen, not me. And honored
Somebody had to get us the ball though, man.
to play with you guys. It was an absolute honor. And I didn't know you kept my shoes.
I did.
That's another great legendary Bayshore story.
Yeah,
I
Damon
did.
awesome.
recovers Blocker's shoes.
Yeah, he threw them away at RJ Hinely's gym, and I was like, "Yo, this is my point guard." I was like, "I'm gonna get those things bronze, Joe." But they sat in my closet for a whole year. Promise you.
That is awesome.
But Coach Sam was my coach too. He was the only coach I had in high school.
Yeah.
So And then-
Really? I didn't
yeah.
realize that.
yeah, I played for Sam from 9th to 12th grade. And then like Dwayne Pippen, I watched him play. I watched Steve Rodriguez play. Then they became our assistant coaches. I mean, as much time as I spent at Bayshore from like 8 or 9, I mean, Missy's probably the only one that's got me in years out there because she laid the red top. But I was there for everything. I mean, from like the glory days all the way up till the time I graduated, and just to be a part of it for that long was pretty special. And it was met a lot of good people. And I think I'm going to watch a game as soon as we hang up on this
So am I. So am I.
because the sweat's pouring.
That's really wonderful. That's so great. And a couple more Facebooks before we close out with Beau. Rihanna says cheerleading for you guys was always so much fun with a couple of hearts. And Coach Sam says championship reunion, best night ever. Proud of you guys. Thank you for your hard work and belief in the team. So Coach Sam is watching you guys tonight. And again, can't thank you enough, John and Damon, for those thoughts, Melissa. And we're going to close out with the man who made the shot. Beau got us the video, and like he said, he told you the story. It was a chore to find that sucker and get it online. And of course, if you watch the video all the way to the end, there's such wonderful joy and excitement amongst all of the students, all of the parents, Coach Sam, and the video keeps going as you go into the locker room, and you see alumni. Jonathan Johnson was there, I think, Schramm. It's just a wonderful family moment for anyone. If you don't want to watch the whole game, just skip to that ending. There's nothing like it. I mean, it's a Disney story. Beau, what are your final thoughts on your role and that moment, the miracle at Ramey?
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Coach Sam. It's a big, all our growing pains. I think he had faith in us sometimes when we didn't have faith in ourselves. And I think that was a big part of it. But the driving force, I think for me and maybe for some of the others was it's hard to explain the experience. And I know Damon and John can attest to this, the feeling and experience you get from playing in the Final Four. I mean, there's nothing like it. And so that was the big thing for me. We were like, we've got to get back there, whatever it takes. So I think that was the big thing for me. And I was just playing a role, like you were saying that year, just trying to be a role player and fit in where I could. And just so happened that was my role, I guess. So, and I want to thank you, Steve. I don't think I would have seen all this and listened to all these podcasts for your efforts. So I want to thank you personally for doing this. I think this is a big deal. You know more about Bayshore basketball than anybody on this planet. And so I want to thank, I got a lot of, several more videos, guys, too, from 93, 94, and 94, 95. So I'll be sending those to Steve and he'll be posting those. But thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Beau, and thank you guys. And definitely want to give a shout out to Chris Pate. This was all his idea when COVID struck. So many people have struggled, and had very rough times with COVID and have faced, tough times and loss of family and friends. But it also led to a lot of people with some downtime. And so Chris and I are watching Hillsborough Hoops, and they're giving the top 25 Bayshore players of all time. And we're like, that dude didn't graduate from Bayshore. We're going to do our own list. And that's sort of what prompted it all. And it has led to a lot of people, not just the basketball program, a lot of people reconnecting, and it's really been a positive impact on their lives. So thank you guys for participating, all of us together. It's really been a lot of fun. I don't have any other closing thoughts other than say thank you. That was one of the greatest moments in Tampa basketball history. And I'm really glad that we got to relive it tonight. We'll have you guys on, I'm sure, again in the future if we keep doing this. Tell everybody to keep looking at the Facebook page, lots of yearbook pictures and fun stuff there. And again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Damon, Beau, it was awesome seeing you guys.
Yeah, man, you too.
Yeah,
Good
you
seeing again.
likewise.
It was that was awesome.
Yeah, enjoy it, man. Thank you guys.
All right, be good.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you guys.